Hi there, good evening and welcome to This Is Ibrox. This is your Sunday session for Sunday the 19th of September. My name's Scott Paterson. If you're joining us on your Sunday night, as always, we're very grateful for your time. Tonight we will cover an averagely exciting performance in Perth yesterday. We'll also do a little bit of a look ahead to which is going to be quite a busy and hopefully exciting week for the football club to come. Joining me on the pod tonight is Scott Cameron. Hi Scott, how are you, buddy?
Very good. It's always nice to be on after a Rangers victory, so I'm looking forward to the chat.
Absolutely. And Ian Mitchell joins us as well. Ian, hi, how are you?
Oh, good, mate. Yeah, glad to be here.
Yes, indeed. So listen, before we get into the sort of meat and bones of things, I can't sort of let the start of the pod start tonight without speaking about the sad news that the club announced that Ronnie McKinnon had passed away, aged 83 years old. One of the very few one-club man that the club had, over 300 appearances for the club, member of the Rangers team that got to the European Cup Winners' Cup when it was the Cup Winners' Cup in 1967. Also one of the Barca Bears from 1972, albeit a leg break against Sporting Lisbon, prevented them from playing the latter stages of that tournament, and indeed the final. Scottish international as well, with 28 caps and a goal to his name. Played in the match that found a lot of publicity last week, the 1967 game with Jim Baxter didn't keep you up as he played that afternoon as well at Wembley. So yeah, another sad bit of news for the Rangers family tonight. So all our thoughts here at This Side Rocks go to Ronnie McKinnon's family tonight. An understandably difficult time for them. Scott Cameron, trip to Perth. I think it's safe to say a trip to Perth is never an easy one. I think Michael Beale said post-match that the surface is one of the difficult ones to play on. I don't think yesterday we expected much more. Indeed, if we were going up there, we were probably a bit concerned based on what we had seen sort of 2 weeks previously and the 2 weeks that we'd had to stew over it. It goes into the game, Michael Beale under a huge amount of pressure. Out go Shooter, Sterling, Jack, Cantwell, Matondo and Dessers. In come Ridvan, Davies, Lundstrom, Lawrence, Danilo and Sam Lammers. Danilo was the one to be excited about. Good to see him playing through the middle.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, he was the big money signing, and I think he came with a big reputation, and I think we've all been excited. We've all been wondering why he's not been given an opportunity. So it was a bit of a fresh approach from obviously the previous match, and I think obviously everybody in the starting lineup had been there during the period they hadn't been away for international. So I think that had a big bearing on the starting 11. So I was excited and looking forward to seeing Danilo, looking forward to seeing Tom Lawrence, and just hoping that the freshness it brought about just a bit of energy and after what's been a difficult spell.
Ian, do you know the big thing I think we found out obviously towards the last week, pre-match, Michael Beale obviously announced that Todd Cantwell was going to be out, he said, for 3 to 4 weeks. I'm not sure Todd Cantwell's Instagram page agreed with that as Friday progressed, and indeed the weekend has since progressed. Of course, meant space for Tom Lawrence to come in and play as one of those interchangeable people in the front three. I think he's someone that I think we're going to see a lot more of over the next sort of 3 weeks with such a high volume of games to play, all in different competitions. It's important that he got game time yesterday and impressed, I felt.
He did, massively. Yeah, it's maybe a bit obvious, but he certainly grew into the game anyway. And I think that last sort of 20, 25 minutes when he was playing central sort of showed what he can do. I mean, obviously he gets the assist, but there's the chance he sets up for Roof towards the end. It's kind of 1-2 and the through ball, just that kind of thing. We don't have midfielders who can do that other than Cantwell. So if Cantwell's out, we need that kind of creative central player, and I think he kind of proved why he can be that central guy to kind of drive the team on, create chances.
Scott, into the game itself, we obviously know that, as we've said, Danilo's playing through the middle on his own. Lammers and Lawrence sort of hanging around off of him. The infamous This Ibrox WhatsApp chat tried to spend about 35 minutes guessing what formation Michael Beale had played, not for the first time this season, I would add. And while I'm not sure we got it right. The goal was actually a really well-worked goal. Lammers, good work down the right-hand side. Tav, as you kind of expect, just darting up and down that right-hand side. And it's a really good cross. And we spoke before we came on. I think it's been a long time since we've seen a Rangers striker who's maybe prepared to put his head in an area where he could get a sore one. We know now that Danilo did indeed get a sore one. It was a cracking header, wasn't it?
It was, as you say, Scott. It was a nice build-up. The ball into a good area. We don't get into those positions on both sides often enough for hard and low crosses. Nice chips into the box. It's a lot of the time it's a lot of hopeful football, but it was a nice wee move. Great ball in, another number for Tav to add to his goal contribution so far this season. He's still top of the table for that, which that's another conversation entirely. But and Danilo, Rangers number 9, no matter who it is, should be between the sticks. You know, that's where you get your goals. And very brave, sticks it away, and you see him on the deck. You just think he's taken a sore one, not realising that he has properly taken a sore one, you know. So, I mean, I don't know what was that, 25 minutes in, 1-0 up, and, you know, that's what you want, you know, after a difficult spell, and you're wanting to try and build from that. But we then obviously had a 5-minute break in the play while obviously Danilo was getting treatment and then getting taken off, you know, and I think that it did negatively impact the sort of performance for the rest of the half.
Ian, Ali Quinn sort of jumps in with a brave header from Danilo, which it was. He's obviously scored 2 headers now when he's played sort of through the middle. First one coming, of course, against Livingston at Ibrox. I really feel for him, because we now know that it's going to be maybe another 6 to 8 weeks before we'll see him again. I think it's pretty safe to say it, unless they look to involve him with a mask, which I doubt. But, you know, I think because the outlay on him in the summer was massive, you now look at it being closer to Christmas before you can properly assess just how good Danilo is going to be for Rangers. So his career at Ibrox has been so stop-start. It's incredible. It's a shame now that we're going to need to wait till, I would suggest, the other side of the next international break before we see just how good this fella's going to be.
Yeah, it's crushing for our team. I think if you look in terms of like replacements, it's kind of sparse in a way, because I don't think Roof can play more than a game a week, so we kind of rule him out playing like back to back to back. Dessler's obviously had his issues from the start, and Sima, I'm not convinced is a striker. I think he's more like a winger, kind of inside forward kind of guy. Yeah. So we're a little bit light there straight away, and we've got, as you say, 6 to 8 weeks, probably if you're lucky, until he's back. He was the one I was most excited about in terms of all the signings. He was the guy I thought, right, he's a 20-plus goal a season guy. As Cammy says, stick between the posts, stay in that area. Tav will find you, Bonner will find you, Cantwell, Lawrence will find you. You'll get chances. And I mean, he's not had much game time, but is that his third goal, I think, in all competitions kind of thing, from such limited game time, maybe 3 starts, if that. So he's shown he can put the ball in the back of the net. He's shown he's a clever forward, very tricky. The movement, there was a chance very early in the game where I think he stuck back post, he should have went front post kind of thing. As if that was a wee moment of learning, and then second chance, he's in the exact right spot he should be. Buries it. It's not an easy header. Usually he has to generate all the power on that. So the fact he's got that ability, I think everyone who was very Danilo should start was like, that's why he should start. This is why. And then straight away we're brought right back down to earth. So just the usual. We should be used to this by now. Absolutely.
Cammy, it was interesting. You said before we came on, and I felt it was a really good point, when Dr. Waller was sort of kneeling down by his side and clearly trying to get him to understand that his face had been absolutely panned in and there was no danger he could continue to play. And you could tell by his body movement that he was really frustrated and he was just desperate to get back up and play on. And I don't think it was until you got up and you saw the damage of the obvious contact, there was no danger he was playing any more further part of the game yesterday. Absolutely not.
I mean, I think he's obviously been desperate for his opportunity. He's got his opportunity for the start. He's got a goal. He's thinking, you know, I mean, I don't imagine his mind was able to process what had actually happened, because obviously he was pretty close to being knocked out, sort of thing, you know. But it's just, he's had a difficult start. He's got a goal, and this has happened to him, you know. And he's obviously, I think once he got into the dressing room and he looked at himself in the mirror, I think he might have actually then realised the severity of the injury, you know. And you just hope that it's shorter term rather than longer term. But you know, it's just really disappointing for the player as much as anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig in Texas. Hi, Craig. Gutted for Danilo, brave header, which is absolutely right. And he does indeed mention that Calvert-Lewis returned today for Everton with something very similar. So, listen, we could see him at Mask. You never know. It may, I think medical regulations may indeed force him to play with one when he returns, whenever that's going to be, which I don't think will be much before November, taking into account just the seriousness of the dislocation. Listen, Sima came on for him, Ian, and he's someone who I think we've seen bits and pieces of so far without really anything happening that we've been overly stunned with. I was actually surprised that he came on ahead of Dessers. To be perfectly honest, I did think Dessers would have came on ahead of him. He had the sort of next good chance of the afternoon for Rangers, forcing a really good save from the St Johnstone goalkeeper, who's not long been capped by Bulgaria, I'm sure, Mitov, who had a fantastic afternoon at Celtic Park not so long ago, and he forced him into a really good save. Sima looked okay yesterday when he came on, quite dangerous on the pace. He did,
and he's very unlucky not to get an assist for the roof chance that we'll obviously come on to in a little while. But yeah, he's got that sort of power, the pace. He can definitely trouble defenders in our league. That's no question about that. Yeah. We saw what he can do for that finish against PSV, so he has got quality. It's just maybe a consistency thing for him. But I mean, he's what, 21, 22? He's a very young guy. Not played a huge amount of first team football so far in his career, obviously with loans and stuff. So I wouldn't rule him out, certainly not. And like you said, I was pleasantly surprised that he came on over Dessers, just given the sort of Dessers image I've gotten in my head so far. So, yeah, wouldn't be against him starting midweek and kind of going forward, getting a little run. As I say, I don't think he's a striker, like an out-and-out kind of guy, but he needs a chance up there, and why not?
I think Scott Hammond's absolutely right. You'll see Dessers on Thursday at some point against Betis. Whether that's from the start or eventually as the game passes, I'm fairly sure that you'll see him at some point. Scott, you go in 1-0 up at half time. Probably not loads to shout loud about. What are you thinking at half time? Is it just a case of come out, keep it tight, and we'll take a 1-0 to come back to Glasgow?
No, I mean, I think very early on you speak about the infamous group chat, and I think I had commented not long after we had went 1-0 up that try to get a second goal and try to kick on from that point. Obviously, the rest of the first half was a bit of a non-event, bar the Sima chance. Getting at half time, and again, I think my comment was get the second goal, put this game to bed as early as possible, because I've seen this movie too many times. 1-0 going into the last 15, 20 minutes, or even less than that. You know, Rangers defence will look relatively calm for the majority of the game, and then they'll do something daft and give a goal away. You know, so I think it was important that we put the game to bed as early as possible, and it took long. We didn't start the second half well at all. I think for the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half, I think we stayed in the dressing room, to be perfectly honest with you, and I thought we were very, very poor at that point. St Johnstone tried to obviously attack a wee bit, as limited as they are, but caused us one or two issues. But I wasn't expecting a Pep Guardiola Rangers performance yesterday after the last few weeks. But so I think it was important that we got that second goal and got up the road with the 3 points.
So, Cammy, you're absolutely right. The start of the second half was really, really quite poor. Excuse me. I actually thought at one point we were definitely conceding a penalty. I felt there was a moment in the second half, and I think it was Tom Lawrence who had both arms on one of their strikers. I have no idea who it was. I apologise, but I thought at the time it was a pen. If it happened against us, I'd be screaming for it, to be perfectly honest. So you could argue we were maybe lucky to get through that introductory period of the second half, potentially without conceding. Jack Butland didn't have a lot to do for the duration of the game, you have to say.
Is that me? Sorry.
Sorry, Ian,
yeah, it was a very quiet game. He had that one where Chris Kane sort of dives over his foot and tries to win a penalty that way. That's never a penalty. The Lawrence one, I was worried because it's the kind of challenge that happens like every corner, every set piece, but when it then goes to VAR, you're just waiting for it, I think, at that point. So I was pretty relieved when that came off. But other than that, no, I can't think of much the defence had to do, but I think that's a compliment to them. I know St Johnstone are probably the worst team in Scotland at attacking, let alone our league. So I could have probably played centre half and done all right in that game. But with Davies not playing, or not starting this season anyway, Yilmaz obviously could be seen to be a target against that kind of team. You look at a guy who's 5'4" and think, right, let's just lump the long ball at him. So I think they were fine. Goldson was fine. And I think Lundstrom's position kind of helped them and all that. So as a unit, I think we're pretty solid, which we've not said too much this season. So that's some kind of positive we can take at least.
Ian, I'll stick with you because in 62 minutes, probably the controversial moment of the day, maybe without considering the injury that Danilo took, was the offside goal. Sorry, the goal that was awarded as an offside for Kemar Roof. It's as tight an offside call as I think I have ever seen with VAR. Ali Quinn, never offside, 60 death of VAR, which I get. I think we're all in that sort of place just now. How did you see it? Did you think it was offside?
I don't know. And that shouldn't be how this ends. Like that shouldn't be happening. They draw those lines, and to me, the lines are on top of each other. So then I would have thought like striker's advantage. Don't know if that's a real thing. I thought this season that was going to be more of a thing, but I don't know if that's more like down in England focused rather than us. But I don't know if anyone watched the game today where we saw Nketiah was slightly offside for Arsenal's goal. It was very similar. Sure. And again, it's the angle that you're looking at. You just can't tell. So you try and base it on the shadows they put up, and you still can't tell. So for me, it's not obviously offside. So then I think it goes with like the linesman's call more than anything, because I know it's not quite the same when it comes to offsides as it is just a general decision, but the length of time it took, I think it seemed like the ref, the fourth official, whatever it is, the VAR guys just thought, well, we've gave it offside, let's just keep it at that. Whereas if he maybe not raised his flag, that might have changed it. But yeah, it's just the rotten luck that Roof's had these last few games. So a sore one to take at the time, definitely.
Cammy, where did you stand on it? I'm 100% with Ian. The lines were on top of each other. The goal should have stood.
I mean, I think Ian's spot on. I mean, to be honest with the linesman, couldn't have got his flag up any quicker. You know, it's like he was insistent. It was one of those. He was straight up sort of thing, you know. And it's just really unlucky for Roof again. I mean, that would be 3-3 that he would have got domestically, you know. And it's as much as I didn't think Roof had the greatest of games. I think he said earlier it was important that he got the 90 minutes, but listen, it was so close, and I think these things even themselves out over the season, so they say. But it's got to happen soon, to be honest. But at that time, I think it's about 25 minutes to go. Ideal time. Go 2-0 up. My wee boys predicted 2-0. I've predicted 3-0. So I'm like, right, he's giving me £1 instead of vice versa, you know. But it's and it just that nervousness just continues because it's only a single goal going into the last 20 minutes, you know. So it was hugely disappointing.
Yeah, listen, I seen it earlier on this afternoon, and you know, I think if VAR is going to give the advantage to the attacking team, in this case striker, in this case Rangers, in this case Kemar Roof, it's surprising it never happened, is what I would say. Or maybe not, depending on which way you want to look at it. Listen, Rangers went 2-0 up, 12 minutes to go, and it was a really, really good goal. Great team goal. Raskin, wonderful tenacity in the middle of the pitch. Releases the ball up to Tom Lawrence, who, in his stride, without really even looking over his shoulder, is very aware that Rabbi Matondo is on his heels and away, and he plays him in. It's a great finish by Matondo, Ian. Interestingly enough, Michael Beale said post-match that Matondo was deserving of his goal. It was something that they've obviously been working on. It's something that we've seen Matondo attempt to do and really not had a great amount of luck at doing, but he took it really well. I felt it was a really nice, tidy finish.
It was. I'm not going to lie to anyone. When I saw him busting through, I didn't expect a goal, which is the pessimist in me. Maybe going off what I've seen so far of Matondo. I know he's done better this season, but I'm still far from convinced that he's like good enough to be starting games kind of thing. But I think he is perfect to bring on in that situation. I mean, as you say, Lawrence sort of makes the goal just clever. He doesn't have to look up. He doesn't need to work out who's where. It's the kind of thing that I know Jack is not going to be our like creative force, but if you see Ryan Jack, it's take a touch, look up. Whereas Lawrence is just, I know he's going to be bang, simple as that. Play him in, and then the finish, great finish. We've seen him do the wrong thing in that position a few times, so get 2-0, game done. Very relieved at that one.
Cammy, Ian's absolutely right. Jack does have a tendency to go for control, which I think we understand, and in certain games it's absolutely warranted, and we're lucky to have it. But in a situation like that, when John Weir refers to the Welsh connection between Matondo and Lawrence. Tom Lawrence is obviously very aware that Matondo, as I said, is on his way. He just has to make sure the ball is into his feet so he doesn't have to break his stride. It's a wonderful pass. Great awareness from Tom Lawrence. And we saw two versions of Tom Lawrence yesterday. We saw the version that started that I felt, probably due to lack of game time, maybe disappeared out of the game a little bit. But I think, as Ian said when we started, when he moved back into the one of the three in the middle of the park, he just looked excellent for me yesterday. I was really impressed.
I think him and Raskin looked as though they could have a nice relationship. There was 2 or 3 instances where it was short, intricate passes, two-touch pass. A midfield player that passes the ball forward will always get huge credit and love for me. It's like, but it's just the weight of the pass is just perfect. He doesn't really have to break his stride, takes it on and slots it away. I'm very much Matondo has exceeded my expectations thus far this season. I think he has proven a very worthy impact player off the bench. I think the challenge that he has to prove to Michael Beale and to the Rangers support is that he can do that from the start and become a Rangers starting player. I think he has proven that his confidence is high. I mean, if anybody had said to me on the 1st of July when the players went back that Rabbi Matondo would have done this, that and the next thing by the middle of September, I genuinely thought he could have been out the door, out on loan or whatever, if we'd managed to bring in a sort of wide player, So credit to him for what he's done so far, but I think he's still got a bit to go to. But kudos to him for the finish.
Ian, as I say, Beale referred to Matondo as deserving of his goal, which I think is testament to the boy's effort, maybe his application in and around the training centre during the week. And I've seen a few people refer to him this weekend, recently indeed, as arriving. You're not convinced just yet, are you?
No. I think if a team is tired, especially in like the lesser teams in our league, if they've got a tired defence, it's the 70th minute, he is the dream. Pace, in behind, ideal. In terms of starting a game, I don't think he can have that kind of impact, especially if we're not already winning a game, because you'll have teams like St Johnstone, like your Livingston's, Kilmarnock, they'll sit so far back, it's like 5 at the back plus another 5 in front of them. There's just not the space to get in behind. And I don't think he's got that ability to take on a man, maybe the way Kent did. I'm not saying Kent was the answer, by the way, just to make sure that's very evident. But Kent could go by a player and kind of make something happen, whereas if a player stands Matondo up, I've just not seen him go by them well enough, considering the pace he's got. I just don't think he's got that trick in him kind of thing. So as Cammy says, if he can get that side of his game polished a little bit more, he's every chance he could be a starter for us. Because it sort of goes back to we saw Lawrence start at sort of left wing, or sort of off the left even yesterday. So I don't think that really works for him. I thought that's where Cantwell could play for us, but obviously he's now out for at least a month kind of thing. So it leaves a bit of a hole in that left side of the pitch now. So can Matondo get starts, get that kind of impact from a full 90? I've yet to see it. I'd love to see it, but I'm yet to see it.
I think do you know what, Cammy? I think the one thing about Matondo, he strikes me as being a genuine winger as opposed to being like a forward. Do you know what I mean? And there's an absolute difference between either. Matondo strikes me as being someone that can actually play in the wing, and he does have. We know about his pace to sort of get behind, but I think Ian raises a good point. We've never actually seen him come up against that, maybe a fast fullback where he's going to have to have a trick up his sleeve to advance, if you like.
I mean, it's he's obviously needed managing. He's needing just to build confidence. I think Tom Lawrence, to your point about Tom Lawrence played a lot of football on the left-hand side, left wing for Derby. And I know, I think JB in our chat had spoke about that at points. I see Tom Lawrence as central. I think the position that he was causing the issues for St Johnstone in the last 15-20 minutes. I think that's where I think Tom Lawrence will be at his best. So the position sort of in that left is up for grabs, to be honest with you. So that's where I think we're in a position where you get your opportunity, you need to grab it, you know. And I think Chris Boyd said that in the studio yesterday. That's what you need to do. You get your chance, you need to grab it, and then Michael Beale has to play you, you know. So I think Matondo has the opportunity to make that position his own, but the jury's still very much out with regard to that. The thing with Tom Lawrence, 90 minutes under his belt, which is huge.
Cammy, I'm going to stick with you because we obviously saw Ben Davies for the first time this season starting the game, and Ridvan was in there as well. That part of the defence has been much maligned because everyone thinks Ridvan's the first choice left back, apart from Michael Beale. Suddenly there's some murmurs over John Souttar because he's got a bit of a brain fart in him back and forward. Davies, I thought, was really good yesterday.
I think for a guy that's not really played since the back end of last season. I mean, I don't think he played any of the games at the split. I'm almost certain he had got injured before the split, and Souttar obviously came in. So for a guy that's not really had a pre-season and what have you, I thought he came in. It was probably the ideal game for him and Ridvan to come in. You know, no disrespect, St Johnstone aren't the hardest opposition, although we did make heavy weather of it at times. I'm not saying Ben Davies is the best centre-half in the world, but I like a right-sided defender and I like a left-sided defender. One of my major criticisms in the Old Firm game was the lack of balance in the side. Everybody chopping onto their right foot all the time, you know. So I think, although I don't recall him having a great deal to do, I thought he was fine and another clean sheet. Can he play Thursday night and then Sunday? Time will tell if his body will allow him to play 3 games in a week.
Do you know, it was interesting to see. I'm sure I saw that, and there's a real interesting stat on Goldson and Davies that I'll bring up very shortly. I saw post-match that he said that I think it's the first 90 minutes that he's played since Aberdeen last season. So I don't think he's had the opportunity to play a full game since the last match against Aberdeen. I don't know if it was a match up there or down at our place, but yesterday I thought he was good. Interestingly as well, in his interview, referred to his lungs feeling quite good. So it was maybe just a strange thing to say that his legs are getting by or his knees feel fine, but he was absolutely referring to his lungs, which I felt was was quite interesting. Ian, you with Cammy on having, I know you're big on the 5 at the back, and I don't want you to rattle into that, to be honest with you, but to the duo at centre half, you for a right side and a left sided type combination.
Yeah, I think if you're a kind of possession based team like we are, you need that personally. Suter's been fine, and I like Suter, but I think a lot of his errors that he's made are because of that sort of imbalance. And as Cammy says, as a squad, we're so imbalanced, so lacking left footers that you need a few in there to get you going. But I'm a Davies fan. I've said that in this pod before. I say it in our chat quite a lot and get a lot of looks and comments. Yeah, stick will say, we'll put it politely. But I like Davies. I thought it was great yesterday. Again, I will caveat that with he's against Chris Kane and Stevie May. It's not hard, with all due respect, but
Blue Nose John has beat me, so he's talking about the stat I'm about to share. If I can get through it. Goldson and Davies are unbeaten in 18 games in the league as a duo together, which is quite something when you think about how maligned Davies is. I mean, Davies gets a really tough time. Everyone expected him to go in the window past. You'll probably find there'll be murmurs for him to go in January for whatever reason. I think he's quite enjoying his football up here, Cam, and I don't think he's really fussy for going somewhere else.
I don't think so. I think it might have suited Rangers to offload his wage and offload him, and I think there was a lot of talk about it from the back end of last season that happened, and then I think Stoke came in right at the death and tried to take him on loan, which was never going to happen, So I think he's had one or two big errors, but yeah, I think it's the way the world, unfortunately, just now, that things like that happen, and you get sort of hung out to dry a wee bit, But I've never ever had a huge issue with him. I think if that's our partnership for the foreseeable, then I'm quite happy with it. And as long as he's part of a winning Rangers team that's not conceding goals, then I don't think anybody's going to be targeting him, because I think he has became a bit of an easy target. That's Rangers fans in my lifetime have always loved a whipping boy, and Ben Davies, Borna Barisic, John Lundstrom. Rightly or wrongly, they've all had their moments, but I think there's some players get an easier ride than others, and other players get a harder time than others, sometimes quite unfairly.
Yeah, I think Davies has been. I think he's been all right when he's been asked to play. The reality is he's going to have, or he does have, the probably the ghost of Celtic Park trying to head a fresh air still hanging over him. And I don't think, the Rangers fans we're an unforgiving bunch. We remember all that sort of stuff. And
Scott,
I think,
see when you see the thing, Scott, about that mistake that he made at Celtic Park.
Yeah,
John Suter had an absolute shocker that day as well.
Yeah,
but this is what I mean about
that. But yeah,
nobody talks about that, and I'm all for being critical of players, but you need to be even-handed with your criticism. And I think there's too many Rangers fans target certain players based on one or two incidents and again, I like John Suter, but I think as a right-sided centre-half, John Suter has made more mistakes in his Rangers career than Ben Davies.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know by the public perception of both players. So I think it's I hope Ben Davies can get a run of games now, and it helps him build confidence and build a relationship with Connor Goldson.
I think it's a fair point. Suter did have a messy afternoon that day as well. I think the difference between both, in my opinion, was that the Davies mistake. I can't believe we're talking about something that happened so long ago as well, by the way. The Davies mistake was just such a basic, and it just looked. I mean, it looked bad. The Suter one was, if memory serves me right, it was a poorly misplaced pass. You know what I mean? But the Davies one just was. It was calamity stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was just the cosmetic feel, I think, of that. To be perfectly honest, it was the basics of defending, and he just got it. It wasn't even close to being right. That said, I don't think he's done a whole lot wrong, other than that, to be honest with you. And he is someone who I like. I like the way he brings the ball out. I think he's got a relatively decent range of dispatch on him, which I think is good and something we need. And it'll be interesting. You're absolutely right. It'll be interesting to see how his partnership with Goldson continues with the big games that we've got to come, which we all know about, and we'll speak about as the pod goes on. I'm assuming my throat decides to allow me. Ian, I want to speak to you about Ridvan. Again, someone that everyone's desperate to see get a bit of run of games. I thought it was quite quiet yesterday. Didn't do loads, but didn't do enough for us to really give him a doing, to be honest.
Yeah, he was fine. Is that a compliment? I don't know. I like Ridvan. I like the options that he gives us. There was the ball in behind that he plays for Seema for his chance. I don't think that's a pass that Barisic makes, given it's a bit risky. So that's why I like Ridvan. But yeah, I think he just needs games, to be honest. I mean, we talk about Davies' first start. Yilmaz has been really short of game time, more sort of maybe injury focused. Obviously, he had that knock, and then he had another knock on the knock kind of thing. So I'm hoping he does get a run, because when I saw he wasn't in that Euro squad as a kind of Ridvan fan, I thought, right, he's done. That's us done with him then, clearly. But I'm thinking it's Ridvan domestically, Barisic in Europe, which makes sense. I don't see too many flaws in that. Keeps them both fresh, good options, can sort of challenge each other, as it were. If one has a brilliant game, then the other one's going to be on their toes, kind of thing. So I think it's good for the squad that Ridvan's getting some game time, but wouldn't say he put up any trees yesterday, kind of thing. But he was fine, no major dramas, and for a defender, that's always the kind of the first objective. So all good.
Cammy, you would surely agree that Ridvan's now at a stage where he just has to get games. There's too many stories about Ridvan not wanting to be around and desperate to get back and blah, 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 blah. Let's just see him play. Let's see if he can play 10 games on the bounce and do it consistently and not get injured and be a threat. Let's see him. Let's see what he can do.
Definitely. I think he needs an injury-free spell, because he's had a sort of stop-start Rangers career thus far. I must confess, he was the player that I was very surprised to see in the starting 11, because as Ian said, when he's not made the European squad, and then Michael Beale's explained why. I understood his reasoning with regard to other players that could cover and what have you, but my thought is that you've spent the best part of £5 million on this guy. He should really be part of a European squad. I think what you'll find is, I don't think he'll get a run of 10 games, but I think what Ian says, maybe I'm not saying switching left backs every game, but I think there will be a horses for courses on that position with the European games, and that's, so I would say over the next, what are we at, the 17th? I think over the next 8 to 10 weeks, I think you're looking for him to get maybe 8 to 10 games across that period of time. And I thought yesterday, I think the comment, I think it was Robert that basically said the Goldson diagonal should have been on so many times when Ridvan was in space, but I don't know why he wasn't used on more occasions. I think Robert also made a point about Goldson having a mistake in him when we were talking about Davies and Suter. Every Rangers defender that we have has a mistake in them. So it's just that's just the way of the world with regard to that. But Ridvan, I think he should be the future. I think Michael Beale loves Borna Barisic, so I think we might have to. Ridvan is, I think, still got to prove himself to Michael Beale. I still remain unconvinced that Michael Beale fancies him 100%. But the only way that changes is Ridvan putting performances in when he gets a chance.
Yeah, and the problem you've got obviously is that Ridvan isn't a Beale signing. So it'll be interesting, and it's a crucial position based on the way that Beale has set us up to play with the fullbacks bombing forward and giving you the width and giving you wingers and air commas. We don't play with wingers anymore, which I think everyone is at last getting their head round. But it's really important that we do get that width, and I would like to see Ridvan get a run of games ahead of Barisic for what it's worth. I really would. I think it's important that we know and we understand, Ian, if this guy's got it or not. Cammy interestingly referred to defenders have always got a sort of error in them, if you like. And Michael Beale trotted out quite a lot of stats pre-match. St Johnstone, it's a third clean sheet in 5 at the weekend there, which would suggest that the defence are doing okay, maybe you could argue, and the problems are maybe at the other end of the pitch as far as that potency is required.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if we can score 3, 4, 5 goals, then a defensive mistake isn't as big a deal. We don't want to see it, obviously, but that's where my big kind of problem with this setup comes from, and this philosophy of Beale's. I think Ross in the group chat made a really good point yesterday that we seem to be controlling games for the first hour, sort of 70 minutes, and then bringing in a bit of pace to try and kill it. And yeah, a 2-0 win was the kind of backdrop of Gerrard's 55 season, but for the squad we've got and the ability we've got and the players we've got compared to these teams, we should be scoring 3, 4, 5 goals 100%. Majority of games. So if a defender's not got that mistake in them, they're not Rangers in this climate. So we are going to accept that players will get by Tav. Goldson will have a brain fart now and again. Davies and Suter have their issues, and Yilmaz and Bonner are not great defensively, but that's why they're here. So surely to combat that, we just go out and try and hammer teams. And if a 5-0 becomes a 5-1, we don't spend much time talking about it here. So that's got to be my train of thought going forward, surely.
Cammy, we're obviously at a really important time of the season, huge week ahead to come, with games for the League Cup, Livingston next Wednesday, Betis on Thursday, which is a huge game. So our first of 7 in 3 weeks, 4 of which are at home in the 9-10 days, I think you said earlier. Where is your head going into, not necessarily Thursday night, but the next 4 games, bearing in mind what we've just seen, PSV, Celtic, things were not to go to plan on Thursday. Has Beale maybe bought a bit of time with a win at the weekend, albeit it was against St Johnstone?
I don't think it's changed anybody's opinion, to be honest with you. I've still seen the same sort of chat post-match. I think the thing going into Thursday night is decent opposition you're up against. I think it's important that you have a competitive performance. I think we compete for the 90 minutes and we actually get a positive result. Whether that's a draw, a victory would be fantastic. But I think going into a run of games, Motherwell at home, Livingston, Aberdeen, the 2 league games, Ibrox, without going back to the Old Firm game, the atmosphere in Ibrox that day, during and after, was toxic. That's my worry going into these games. But I'll basically say Thursday night's an opportunity to start that run of games with a performance. And I think the Rangers fans will always stay with the players on the park if what they're seeing on the park is something that we can get behind. And we're seeing energy, we're seeing tempo, we're seeing them trying to attack, obviously without going gung-ho against a half decent Betis side. But I think Thursday night, the important thing is that we're competitive in the game and we get a positive result that can take us forward into a tricky. I think the 3 league games before the break aren't the easiest.
No.
But I think I've probably bored you all to death in the group chat about the opening 10 fixtures on paper. Couldn't have been any more favourable. 6 out of the 10 games at Ibrox. So I think it's important, off the back of losing the Old Firm game, I think we have to get back to turning Ibrox into a fortress. Michael Beale, I think, said in his press conference either Friday or yesterday, that was the first defeat at Ibrox. So I think it's since he came back. So I think it's important we return to getting positive results at Ibrox, and all we can do is build game on game, and hopefully that can build more understanding and build more confidence, and a bit of more belief comes back into the squad and the support as a whole.
Ian, Thursday's a really big game. I almost wonder if it's been a long time since Rangers won the League Cup, and while next Wednesday feels like a million miles away, I do wonder if almost the Livingston game is bigger than the Betis game, because Celtic are out that tournament. I think everyone expects it's going to be between us and them to win vast majority of the trophies this year. I certainly do. I do wonder if the Livingston game in a week's time is bigger than Betis on Thursday, bizarrely enough.
Yeah, I think the reason behind that is that if we say lose to Betis 2-0, I don't think anyone's too upset. Obviously, we don't want to lose ever, but we appreciate their top 6 La Liga team last season. A lot of players who are well known, like in Europe, guys like Isco and whatever, guys on big money, big fees, etc., etc., etc. So there's every chance we go down, say 1-0, 2-1 kind of thing. Whereas if we lose to Livy, I think Beale knows he's gone.
Yeah,
and he should be gone. Personally, I know we can get to that another day, but there's no excuse for not winning the League Cup this season. We've not had it for over a decade at Ibrox. It's a trophy that, grown up, I kind of associated with Rangers, so we should be taking that home. And again, you look at Celtic getting put out, we've got to win it. There's no excuse. I said it a second ago, but we have to win that trophy. So Betis is a big game. Well, I think we need it for a sort of feel-good performance. We need to see these players are capable of winning that kind of game. But if you offered me only one win out of the two, I know what I'm going for. Let's put it that way.
So, listen, RFC 72, I think, is who makes a really good point that I'm going to try and share just now. If we get thrashed by Betis, and Ian, you can take this one, I know you'll love it. What does happen with Michael Beale? So if we get a doing at home on Thursday, and for what it's worth, I don't think we will, to be honest. No. But if we do get a bit of tanking on Thursday night, where does Michael Beale sit at that point? Not necessarily with the support, but just generally. I mean, a terrible start to a campaign for a competition that's been reasonably kind to us, you could argue. Yeah,
the group's been kind to us, but I don't think the fixture layout has been, because we could have done with this being like Aris at home, with less disrespect to them. I don't mean that, but Betis are a team that are capable of beating us, sadly. I think that's quite true, but if it's the same kind of performance and result as PSV away, I think Beale could be away, personally. I think he was quite lucky to keep his job in the international break. A lot of benefit of doubt was given, but I think either a domestic loss in any capacity at this point, or a tanking defeat to any game in Europe, I think Craig stole my thunder, but yes, I think he's gone. Ibrox would be quite similar to how it was at the end of the Celtic game. Not quite as vocal, I would assume, but yeah, if he hadn't lost enough fans by then, that would be the nail in the coffin for me.
Cammy, the obvious problem he has is that the wiggle room is gone, like completely, entirely. The next time he has an issue, particularly at home, the fans will absolutely be looking for blood.
Aye, without a doubt. I mean, I think he referred to conversations with James Bisgrove and John Bennett during his presser or his Sky interview, and I think I would hope that he's been left in no uncertain terms. I think the next international break, I think I said 7 games in 21 days. I think the expectation will be that you're still competitive in the Europa League. You're through to the semi-finals of the League Cup, and you've won all the league games. I don't want to get into when he would go, or that sort of thing. I'm trying to I said at the start before we came on, I'm going to try to be as positive as possible, and that I want Mike. I do have great reservations, but I genuinely want Rangers to be successful.
Yeah,
so Rangers being successful means that Michael Beale's successful, and I think that's what we all want. Thursday night is an opportunity. Ibrox under the lights. Give us a good start in the game. Keep the crowd with it, and if that happens, we can get a positive result on Thursday night. And it is cliched, but all we can do is take that game, tick it off, move on. Motherwell Sunday, beat Motherwell, tick that off, move on. And that's the only way that we're going to try to build some level of confidence and belief. But it all comes back to big game victories. I think until we win a big game and until we lift a trophy, everybody's going to go, we're only 5 minutes away from dropping a point, or we could win the next 17 games on the trot, we could win the 6 Europa League games, but we go to Celtic Park on the 30th of December and we get beat again, you know. So it's all, he's in a no-win situation at the moment, and all we can basically do is have a bit of siege mentality and just, you know, get everybody together and take it game by game and win games. That's the only way that the noise is going to disappear, or maybe not disappear, but just quieten down.
Yeah, indeed. Cammy, listen, before I let you go, give us a wee prediction for Thursday. Not a score, just tell me, are Rangers winning or losing, or is it a finish and a draw?
I don't think we'll lose on Thursday night. I don't know what that means, but I don't think
the splinters, my friend.
I'm sitting here on the fence. No, I'll be positive. I think we'll win by 3-1.
I'd take that. I'd take a 1-0 right now, frankly. But Ian, where do you stand on Thursday? I know it's early doors yet in the week.
I'm a little bit worried of the players we're missing, the sort of Danilos and Cantwells, but I think, like Cammy, we're not going to lose. I just have this kind of thing. It's probably just hope more than anything else, but I feel like we are putting the building blocks together. Maybe there's a little sign of some cohesion finally coming, but I think it all depends how we start this game, to be honest. If it starts poorly and they go 1-up, Ibrox will flip like that. So keep it positive. I think we will win very narrowly. We'll go 2-1 if I'm putting a score on it.
Yeah, I think it'll be 2-1. I don't think we won't concede, so I think we'll win.
Yeah.
I think we'll come good in the end, but I do think we'll concede on Thursday night, to be honest with you. Listen, it's been good having you on, Ian. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Pleasure as always. Now, cheers, guys.
Cammy, always good to see you, buddy. Yeah, you still adding pictures to that wall behind you? I see you yet.
No, to be honest, it's now my little boy's room is now officially the Blue Room Annex. So there's been nothing fresh added here for a while. He is 6 years old and he's claiming all the pictures that come into this house now.
Mrs. Cameron must be raging at the holes in your walls, by the way. She must be furious. Listen, thanks for coming on. It's always good to see you, mate.
Yes,
don't forget,
if
you're following us on social media, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're on Threads as well. I don't know if Threads is a thing anymore, but we're on there somewhere. If you are watching us on our YouTube channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about us. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think we're doing. By all means, get involved in this Ibrox community. There's an opportunity to join that via the YouTube page. Please jump on and have a look. Before I go, should say congratulations to the women's team today who travelled to Lynx Park at Montrose and cuffed Montrose 12-0. Debut goal from Libby Bance as well up there. I watched the women's team on Wednesday night at Broadwood. They've got quite an exciting season ahead of them, I think, as things stand just now. Lots of good things happening under the stewardship of Joe Potter. The guys are back on Wednesday with the warm-up where they look ahead to a huge night of European football on Thursday night when Real Betis come to Ibrox. Have a great week. Join the guys Wednesday if you can. Bye for now.